Hello and welcome to another video of Car Mechanic Simulator. I've done a couple of different types of videos on the channel. So I've done some beginner's guides, some helpful hints and tips, and also just general playthrough, and that's what we're going to experience in this game. So as I go through, I'll just pass on any hints, tips, talk through what I'm doing. So there's no real formal structure to this other than to kind of show you some of the gameplay. If you are interested in the beginner's guide, then you can go and check that video out, and I think that is really useful to introduce people to the gameplay mechanics in those videos. And in this one, I'll say again that the tutorial can feel like it's a little bit misleading and a little bit lacking because it's a cutscene where there's a barn find vehicle that they then restore and sell on at a profit. Now that's not to say that that doesn't happen, but that looks like it's further on in the gameplay loop. So as we do repairs in our garage, then we build up cash and we build up experience, which we can redeem here at our toolbox. And you can go through and decide which perks you would like to buy. You can save them up for something that you really want to have, because if you decide that you want to change your mind, although there is an option to reset the points, as you can see, that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you £4,000 or dollars, and that is not the easiest to come by. So depending on which job you take in the complexity, that's how much cash you're going to earn. And the 11,700 that we've got at the moment is a combination of payments for jobs that we've done and the unlocking of the crates. So at various points through the game, you'll be rewarded with crates. They will have parts in there that you can sell. You can also then sell the damaged parts that you remove from the vehicles, but they are not very big in value at all. So where does that put us in terms of progression? In terms of barn finds, I'll take you over to the world map here. Also within those crates, you will be provided with barn locations, and they will be added to the world map, which you can see here. And should we want to travel to that destination, it will cost us $100, which isn't very much at all. But when you get to those barns and you see those wonderful vehicles just itching to be restored, they're not yours gratis. You do have to pay for them. And as you can imagine, they are not in the best state of repair. So you'll also need to invest more dollars into getting them roadworthy and saleable. So it's obviously something to aim towards, which is always good in a simulator title. There are also various parts dotted around these barns, which I quite happily went round collecting, thinking that I was going to make some good cash, and it only cost me $100 until I went to exit and it asked me whether I would like to buy them. So nothing in the barns is free, so it is worth certainly scoping out what's in there and kind of keeping a mental note of anything that you might need. So to put that into context, the cars in there were around about $30,000, and I reckon that's probably going to take, depending on the complexity of jobs that you take, I've probably done around 10 jobs, because I've also been recording and making videos. And so we're at 11,000. So a rough estimate, I'd say we're looking at probably about 30 jobs. Jobs again, complexity can vary and the time taken to do them. So no quick and easy formula, but I would guess somewhere in the region of, let's just say 2 to 3 hours. Okay, on the heads up display here in the top, first and foremost, we've got our skill points, which is orange. We then got our experience, and it looks like we're going to be heading towards 1,800 to get to that next skill point. And you also saw, hopefully, although it's quite small, that another call just came in, and that's a good prompt for us to check our phone. So everything is done via the radial menu, which is the triangle button. Again, if I'm rushing through this and you'd like to see this in more detail as that beginner's guide, then do go and check that video out. And it'd be really helpful to me if it is helpful to you to give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you've got any comments, any helpful hints and tips of your own that you think would be useful for me or to share with the people, then do pop those in as well. Okay, so the Jeep Grand Cherokee, easy for me to say, that's going to run out in 20 seconds. So let's go ahead and take that job so that I can talk you through a repair. So there we are, there's our vehicle delivered into the garage. First thing we want to do is see what it is we need to repair. Radial menu, while we're highlighting the car, will bring up different options, and we're going to go to car status. At this point in the playthrough, it's going to give us exactly what we need to do, and it's going to give us the faulty parts that we need to find as well. So before we track those, let's just get the vehicle over on the ramp. And so back to the radial menu, move car to the car lifter, and we can now start to see what's going on. So let's get the car up. So as you can imagine with a simulator game, there is elements of repetition. It's more of a kind of slow-paced kind of affair. And there's also going to be a little bit of oh, what are we doing here? Sorry, let's lower that bit. Sorry, I got distracted. There's also going to be a grind element to it to work through different jobs and unlock the different options. So first thing we're going to do is to make our life easier once we get under the hood and the bodywork is we are going to track all of the faulty parts, so we can move through the parts list there, pressing X on each of them. We also need to replace the oil filter. Now we can't track changing the oil because it's not a physical part, but I will show you that. In fact, let's do that right now. So if we raise the vehicle up, and if we want to change the oil, then we need to go over here and get our oil drain, and we can move that underneath the vehicle. And when we use it, we should see the oil drain into it, or not quite. Now, if you don't do that, and if you take the oil cap off, it will go on the floor and it will cost you $100 to clean it up. So we've drained the oil. So of course we need to put some fresh oil in. So let's flip the hood here. And once we click on the engine, we're looking for the oil cap there, which is here. And we can fill that up. Keep our finger on the X button until it just tilts slightly to indicate that it's full. There we are. Oil plugs back on. And if I now go back to the job menu, you can see that the changing of the oil is complete, but we do need to change the oil filter. So let's go on and do that. And so, because we track those parts, we can see that at various parts around the environment are blue. Now those are the parts that we've tracked as needing to be replaced. What you'll also notice is that they're very visibly really rusty to indicate visually that they need to be replaced as well. So we can either take the part off and remember that we need an oil filter, but what is useful is to then track this part by going back into our menu and adding it to a parts list. So we'll go ahead and take that off, and what you can see is as we move around, it's anything that we can disassemble. We should be highlighted in green. No, that's not working. Oh, okay. So what you probably saw there is that it can't be accessed unless it's from beneath the vehicle. And as you can imagine, that's part of the gameplay mechanic, is that often to be able to get to something, you need to remove something else. So we can move around the vehicle with our L stick or directional stick, and with the right one we can move the cursor around the screen, and now you can see that that's highlighted in green because that means that we can in fact access it. We've added that to our parts list, and what we can also do, we've got our parts notes there. As you can see, we've got an oil filter. Other way we can keep track of that is it will be popped into our inventory, and you can see there that that's in very bad condition. It's at 3%. So as we go around the vehicle, anything, oh sorry, I nearly exited the game, anything that's in poor enough condition will need replacing, but these blue trackers are very useful for that. So we can't access the other bits we need from underneath the vehicle, so let's lower it down and we'll get back under the hood and see what we're working with. So it looks like we need to be able to get to some of the timing belt type stuff there. So this is going to involve a bit of assembly, or disassembly, I should say. So if we just move around until we find something that's green that we can take apart. So a belt tensioner. So I forgot to track that one. So we can see that it's gone into the inventory there. So another useful tool here is that if we press the square button in the middle of the controller, we can in fact add these parts to a shopping list, so that when we head over to the computer to buy the parts that we need, then we'll be able to track them quite easily. Okay, so we will carry on trying to get to these parts that we need to replace. And at any point while we're doing this, we can refer back to our car status to see where we're up to, and in our inventory also. So what you can also do, if it helps, is as you've removed the parts, we can go to the car status list and actually untrack them, so that we know let's just have a look at what we did remove. So far we've removed the oil filter, a belt tensioner. We don't need to replace that belt because it's in good enough condition. And so we got a water pump pulley and a water pump. So we're going to take off, untrack the water pump pulley and the water pump. And I don't know whether we got the belt tensioner. And what that means is that those particular parts that we've removed are no longer highlighted in blue. So what we need to access next is within that mountain there. Some interesting angles here. There's going to be quite a bit of disassembly on this one to be able to get to what we need. So again, just moving around until we find our access point to get to the bits that are highlighted in blue. And just in case you're panicking that you've got to remember the order of all this to put it back together, it will go in some kind of order. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here by doing it and talking through it. So let's just go back to our tracker. We don't need to be taking the car apart completely unless we need to. So the belt tensioner, is that in our inventory? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go ahead and untrack that. A timing chain, was that in there? No. And we didn't have the cam. Either. So we've kept those tracked because we need to be able to get to a timing chain and the cam gear, which look like they're inside this bit here, which we're struggling to access a little bit at the moment. So where's our next? So I'm going to have to take this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this back up elevated because we're having a bit of trouble accessing what we need to via that angle. So let's try a different approach. And I'm not sure that's helped us a great deal. This has been one of the trickier jobs I've had, actually, if I'm being honest. It's probably, that is, I guess, translating in the video as well. It's not the smoothest. So let's get this back down again. That's really not helping us out there. So maybe let's go back in here. And that's green. Again, some interesting angles here. I don't know why we can't seem to access this. It's not usually this much of an issue to access what we need. I think we're almost there. Okay, that looks promising. So we got a timing chain and a camshaft, both of the parts that we need to replace. Take that off, and the cam gear. And I do believe that's all our faulty parts. Removed. So we already added the oil filter, the water pump, pulley to our shopping list. Let's add the timing chain and the cam gear, and then let's go and get those parts ordered so that we can replace them. So in the computer, there's different sections for different types of purchases, and almost everything I've needed in my playthrough is in the parts menu. If I press the options button, then up pops our shopping list, and we can cycle through the sub menus to the different sections of the car. So we'll start with looks like we've doubled up on the oil filter, but we only need one of those. So what I'm going to do for speed here is press the square button, and that means that we can start to type in and narrow down what we're looking at. So we want an oil filter for a V8. That's a very reasonable price of $15, and I've got the perk that gives me a little bit of a discount. So oil filter we're happy with. The belt tensioner, whoops, I've gone the wrong way. So let's start narrowing that down. A belt tensioner, and there are sometimes more than one version, so having the shopping list is very helpful to make sure you pick up the right one. So the belt tensioner looks like there's just a standard one. Where might that be? Have I gone past it? There's the belt tensioner, not too pricey. Glad about that. We need a timing chain and a cam gear. So timing, don't have to be too specific about your search because it will just narrow it down. So we want a timing chain for a V8. V8 OHV, sorry, F, which is that one. It's a little bit more pricey at $60, but we get a discount. And last but by no means least, the cam gear. I'd like to think by the time I've spent a bit of time in this game, I'm not sure I'm going to be opening up a garage or repairing my own vehicle, but I'm sure I'll have a little bit more of an idea of just the way generally cars are put together. Okay, so we've purchased our stuff. The inventory is very useful if you forget to track the parts, to refer back to what it is you have removed and so would need to replace. And then once we're done with the repair, we can sell all those faulty parts. Not much money in it, but you don't need them in your inventory, and it's all cash. So let's head back over to the vehicle. I think what we established here is that we could actually do most of this from the hood itself, and so it's going to default to taking parts apart. That makes sense. Disassembly. Let's go to part mount, and as you can see, there's a combination of different things going on here. Is that for the parts that we tracked, they are still in blue, and for the ones that we didn't, there's a silhouette. So it does guide you towards what you need to replace. And once you click on that area and it's green, then you can just click your X button and it will automatically default to the new part for you to install it. And generally the reassembly goes in a sequence so that the parts are close together, as you can probably see. Although I'm making it look difficult to hover on the specific part. Okay, over here, can we put that on yet? I'm not sure we needed to remove the throttle at all. We got a bit carried away. We need to put the cover back on. So, unless I'm mistaken, it won't let you reassemble the parts out of order, and by that what I mean is that you put a cover on before you put the parts that you need inside of it. I could be proven wrong. Oh, that doesn't look very healthy, does it? A water pump. Okay, so I think that might be something that we forgot to buy. So we had a water pump pulley. We can't put something on that's 2%, so let's add... Well, first and foremost, let's get that on the shopping list. And then we'll go over and get the replacement for that. Square button again to narrow down our search. water pump, and pressing option brings up again our shopping list. Water pump, where are we? V8OH V6. OHV, sorry, that's not a 6, it's a G. V8OHVG. Okay. Now, I haven't tried to complete a job having replaced a clearly dodgy part. I'm not sure whether the game would actually allow that. Back to part mount, and this time when we go to put this back on, yeah, nice and shiny, not a big mass of rusted terribleness. So what I would recommend is, as you're reassembling your parts, and I'll do that now, is that you untrack them, otherwise it can be quite misleading. And as you can see there, it's showing the parts that we've replaced. I'm just going to untrack the parts that we have done and track those that we haven't. So we know that we've not replaced the oil filter. We haven't put the belt tensioner on or the water pump, which looks like it's our very next job. Water pump pulley. I thought I had bought one of those, but we only have, again, sorry, let's go back to the menu. We only have, apparently, one that's not in a very good condition. And that is because I bought the wrong part by the looks of it. Unless there are two, whatever that is, idler Apollo. Either way, we're going to need to buy a water pump pulley. And I don't think those were cheap. Let's make sure I buy the right one. So water pump pulley, it wasn't the V8 version, which we just saw there, that was quite expensive. We'll add to the shopping list just to make sure. So that we can bring that up in the corner there. And it's just a straightforward water pump pulley. Ah, good. So that's a good example of, without the shopping list, the parts visually look quite similar. There is a description, but you could quite easily buy the wrong one and spend $150 there instead of $15. Now, you can resell parts should you buy them in error, but I'm not sure that you get the full price back. In fact, I'm pretty sure that you don't. Okay, we've gone back to the car, which means again it has defaulted to disassembly. And so although that's green, that would just mean that we start taking the car apart again. So back to part mount. We have got our tracked part here. We've now got a decent one that we can install. We can assemble that. And then that, I think, leaves us with the oil filter, which we can't access from there. And so let's get to it from underneath. I believe it was around about there somewhere. So already I'm becoming more familiar with the vehicles. Why won't it let me get to that? Dear. I thought I could get to that from where I was before. Ah, of course. Oh, not paying attention to my own advice. It had defaulted to disassembly, and so I would have been taking the car apart again. Okay, so we can step away from the vehicle and let's track our car status. Oh, so we are, let's untrack water pumps. We did that. We are still light of belt tensioner somewhere, which I'm guessing is around about the engine somewhere. Means that we need to get under the hood. When we start looking around the engine, and again go to part mount, and it looks like we've still got a bit of assembly to do. Something was green there a second ago. A belt pulley you would think would go around somewhere here. Just looking for something to turn green here. An idler roller. Ah, we had two of those, didn't we, in our inventory? Again, looking for something to turn green. Gives us an idea of what we next need to install. So we can zoom out as well and around the vehicle. We're still in construction mode. I'm making a bit of a meal out of this one. Put the other idler roller on, and then hopefully that means that there is a belt to go around it. A belt tensioner. Now we're motoring. Pun completely intended. What's next? Okay, let's untrack again. See if we can't narrow this down. Why are those bits still in blue? That's because they're still, the oil filter's still tracked. So we should have around here somewhere. The belt tensioner is showing in blue. So somewhere around here there must be one last part that we need to fit, surely. That is blue, but we've fitted that, haven't we? So back to the thing. Belt tensioner. So in actual fact, I'm looking for something that doesn't exist because we have completed the job. Okay, so that's job done. Again, probably made a bit of a meal of that, so that's probably not the best example of how quickly you can turn a repair job around, and of course I'm talking through as I do it, but hopefully it does give you some kind of insight into kind of the gameplay loop. So that essentially we're going to be taking repair jobs on. The more complex they are, the longer they're probably going to take, the more profit there will be in them. And the idea being that we build up our cash so that we can get enough to go and purchase those barn finds and start about upgrading and making the big money. So in terms of the vehicles themselves, once we look at them, once we purchase vehicles, we do also have some parking. So we can move the vehicles into parking as we own them. For this particular job and video, we are pretty much done. So let's go and have a look at what we've made. So all our jobs are done. We found the faulty parts. We've taken the old ones off. We tracked them so that we could go and track them in the computer. We added them to the shopping list, and you can either track all of your parts, which is a good approach when you first go around the vehicle. Tracking all your parts will mean that they highlight in blue, and as you either take them apart or go to reassemble them, then you can untrack them. If you don't track them after you've taken them off, then there will be a silhouette that gives you an idea of where to put them, and there are, as you'd expect, different layers, so sometimes you will need to remove something to be able to get to another part. To sum this up, we can see at the bottom there that we spent $415. We've been given a task bonus of 470, a job bonus of 249, and actually that's quite a nice healthy amount. So we'll click finish order, and that's given us $1,134. So we're eking our way towards that magic 30 to buy our first vehicle. Last thing that we can do, back into our inventory, and we'll sell these parts that we do not need. That's in such poor condition it's worth nothing, but there's no sense in keeping it. That's worth a whole $1, $3, we're up to $4, $8, and so $31 we made for all of those parts. Wow. But we don't need them, so hey, let's keep the inventory nice and clear. Before I wrap up the video, I will just take you very quickly around the garage and talk through some of the different things that I've come across as I've been playing. Firstly, if you need to replace tyres, then you can do so on the tyre changer. And what happens there is when you click on it, you can separate the tyre from the rim. You can then put it back on, and you would think that it could then put that on the vehicle, which is not there any longer. You'd be wrong. You need to balance the wheel first. So once you've balanced the wheel, then it's ready to go back onto the vehicle. There are different sizes, depths and whatnot to the tyres. So again, that shopping list really helps out to remember the dimensions and make sure that you're not wasting your money. Over here, now this just shows up as a spring puller. So when you come to do suspension jobs, some of them will be made up of a different number of components, which when you go to reinstall them via your usual approach, won't work, and it will cause confusion, or it certainly did for me. And that's because you need to assemble them on the spring puller via the join parts there, and then that will tension it, and it'll be ready as a combined unit to put back onto your vehicle. The oil drainer we already went through quickly. Haven't yet got to the point where we need the engine stand, but we'll click on there. You can see there's different options. Add engine. I've not needed to do any of that yet. One of the unlockables that we have access to when we get enough points, I currently have I think 1 point to spend. Can I do that here? No, so it looks like you do have to go through. The secret is Tire tread. Oh, that's a shame. I wanted to be able to get the tablet essentially so that we could order parts on the fly, and that's saying that it only costs 1 upgrade point, but we've got to go through the sequence first. So you don't have to do all of them, but I think you need to unlock at least one before you move on. So let's go and spend that upgrade cost. Okay. 2, 3. I thought I had 5 skill points, and I don't have any. That's why I can't unlock them at the moment. So that would be the next thing that I would like to do. I don't really see the point at this point in expanding the garage, but that might mean the scope of jobs that you can accept extends. We'll find that out. And so that's what I'm going to do in the videos going forward. So it'll be almost like a mini series. So just to recap, we have a number of different videos in terms of Car Mechanic Simulator, because I personally found that the tutorial was lacking, and I do think with just a few little helpful hints and tips to get you on your way, you will get the most out of this game and really start to enjoy it. I then followed that up with a kind of part 2, where there's a bit of a deeper dive into what I'd learned through going through the game. There was some kind of first impressions video there, and there's ones where I've just actually just played through and talked through what I'm doing, which is what this was. So I hope that there's something in there for everybody that's interested in Car Mechanic Simulator. If it's been useful for you, then that thumbs up lets me know. And there is other content on the channel, so I'm trying to build it up. It's a very new channel, and it's quite easy to play the games that I enjoy and just capture them on the PlayStation 5 and get them straight onto YouTube. So there's no fancy edits. I yap quite a lot through the videos and just talk through generally what I'm doing. So if there's any kind of format that you prefer, would like to see, then just let me know. And as I have probably mentioned, if not in this video, then in others, is that we have a PlayStation subscription, which means that there's quite a big catalogue of games on there. So I would also probably do some brief kind of first impressions, because I'm sure there's lots of hidden gems in there, and if you got the subscription then they're free, but are they worthy of that precious storage space? That's what I hope to find out. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in future videos.